Good evening to all of you present here today. Uh, today, EBSB, that is Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat at Shri Mata Vaishno Devi University, along with the School of Philosophy and Culture at Shri Mata Vaishno Devi, and our collaborator, the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, New Delhi, is organizing a webinar on the sacred art and architecture of Jammu and Kashmir as well as of Tamil Nadu. So we are joined today by four speakers. First one will be uh, Ms. S. Logamani ji, whose topic will be on Meenakshi Temple. Then we have Ms. Varunani ji, whose presentation is on Thanjavur's Brihadeshwara Temple. Then we have Shri Manikandan ji, whose presentation is on Rameshwaram Temple. And finally, we will be having Dr. Virendra Bangu ji, whose presentation will be on Avanti Swamin Temple. And I'm very happy to organize this webinar once again because once we started with EBSB, so we had this thing in our mind that we will be holding regular seminars and webinars on the art, culture, and the traditions of both Jammu and Kashmir as well as of Tamil Nadu. So we have recently concluded some events from Jammu and Kashmir. So we have taken both Jammu and Kashmir, and we started with Jammu and Kashmir and Tamil Nadu's webinar. And today we are having the second in that list. So I'm very happy to not only welcome you all, but also to organize this webinar on this platform. And given if the situation gets better, so we will be holding these things also on the offline mode because till now we are only allowed to organize events in the online mode. So I will not waste much of time. Rather than, I will like to invite the first speaker today. Our first speaker will be Ms. Logomani ji. Ms. Logomani ji is from Vadamadurai block of Dindigul district of Tamil Nadu. She has completed her BA, MSc, BEd, and has a 15 years of teaching experience. And she has studied Tamil and English literature. She has participated in many national and international conferences. She has also co-authored a book titled Vithiyai Akum Kadai Kal, which means the real life stories which grow as seed in the heart. It is about the motivational stories of legends like Ambedkar, Elon Musk, Mailsami Anudavarai, and Cristiano Ronaldo. And I guess so, many more. So I invite her for her presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I extend a warm welcome to all the sacred art and architecture of Jammu and Kashmir and Tamil Nadu. I find immense pleasure to participate in this webinar as a speaker from Tamil Nadu. My topic is Meenakshi Amman Temple, Madurai. In the town of Madurai is ancient and mentioned in Sangam era text. Some early Tamil text called Madurai as Kudal, and these portray it is a capital and a temple town where every state radiated from the temple. In medieval literature and inscription, it is sometimes referred to as Kadambavanam, that is forest of Kadamba, or Belli Embalam, silver hall where Siva danced. Meenakshi is a term meaning fish-eyed derived from the word min that is fish and akshi that is eyes. She was earlier known as by Tamil name fish-eyed one, which was called later as Meenakshi. She is also known by the Tamil name Angayar Kanni or Angayar Kannammal, that means literally in the mother with a beautiful fish eyes. The Meenakshi temple is a theological and culturally significant temple for Hindus. Professor Christopher Fuller signifies that through the wedding of Meenakshi Sundareswar as the supremely important rite of passages for women, the cultural concept of Sumangali or auspicious married woman who lives with her husband. The marriage of goddess and god is a symbolic paradigm for human marriage. The temple is also significant because it implies an affinal protective relationship between Saivism and Vaishnavism. tradition of Hinduism by making Shiva the husband of Meenakshi and Vishnu her brother, a significant relationship in Dravidian kinship system. Golden Lotus Temple, Pochamarai Kulam. It was in this bond that the golden lotus for India to perform his puja bloomed. This bond is also known as Adi Tirtham, Sivahanga Tirtham, Uttama Tirtham. This bond is situated within the temple complex. This Tirtham was created by Lord Sivaperuman by thrusting his Sulam. It is also called Paramatirtham as Jnana Tirtham because it confers prosperity on all who bathe in it. As it grants heavenly abode, it is also called Mukti Tirtham because the water from Ganga from the head of the Lord Shiva confluences with it, and also Uttama Tirtham because of its purity than any other Tirtham. If the devotees bathe in the water of this bond of lotus on Amavasa, that is new moon day, the first day of the month, days of eclipse and other auspicious days, and worship the Lord, they will be blessed with all their aspirations for success. This is Golden Lotus Temple. This, this temple occupies a huge area in the heart of Madurai as it spreads 14 acres. Apart from the two main shrines which are dedicated to Sundareshwarar and Meenakshi, the temple has shrines dedicated to various other deities like Ganesha, Murugan. The temple also houses of gods Lakshmi, Rukmini and Saraswati. The temple has four main towering gateways, that is Gopurams, that look identical to each other. Apart from the four Gopurams, the temple also houses of many other Gopurams that serve as gateway to a number of shrines. The temple has totally 14 towering gateways. Some of the major Gopurams are Kadak Gopuram. It was built by Tumbachi Nayakar. It has 5 stories. Next one is the Sundareshwarar Shrine Gopuram. It was built by Gulasekhara Pandya. Then Chitra Gopuram. It was built by Maravarman Sundara Pandian II. It depicts the religious and secular essence of Hinduism. The next one is Nadukattu Gopuram. It is also known as Idaikattu Gopuram. Then Mottai Gopuram. Interestingly, Mottai Gopuram had no roof for nearly 3 centuries. The next Nayak Gopuram. It was built by Nayakar around 1530. The temple also has numerous pillars called mandapams. These were built by various kings and emperors. In that, some of the main mandapams are Ayiramkal Mandapam, Kilikundu Mandapam, Astava Shakti Mandapam, and Nayak Mandapam. The main and most important mandapam is Ayiramkal Mandapam. It literally translated to hall with 1,000 pillars. The hall, which was built by Aryananda Mudaliyar, is a true spectacle. It is supported by 985 pillars. Each and every pillar has images of Yoli, a mythological creator. This was built with the oldest Nellaiappar temple in Tirunelveli as a model. It's considered culturally important and it is mentioned by the Archaeological Survey of India. At the entrance of the mandapam, we can still see the statue, the majestic pose of Aryananda Mudaliyar seated on a beautiful horse back with flanks one side of the entrance. Each pillar is carved and it is a monument of Dravidian sculpture. There is a temple art museum in the hall where icons, photographs, drawings and other exhibits of the 1200 years. Just outside of this mandapam, towards the west, are the music pillars. Each pillar, when we struck, produces a different musical note. The Kalyana Mandapa, to the south of the pillared hall, is where the marriage of Shiva and Parvati is celebrated every year during the Chitrai festival in April. Thirukalyanam. The festival of Meenakshi Thirukalyanam celebrates the divine wedding of Meenakshi Amman with Lord Siva. This grand celebration is held in Madurai. The cultural capital of Tamil Nadu is one of the biggest events here. This annual event takes place in the famous Meenakshi temple at Madurai, and devotees from all corners of the world came to witness this magnificent event. Apart from the renowned Chitrai festival, Meenakshi Thirukalyanam is held on the 10th day. On this auspicious day, thousands of devotees from Madurai and adjoining areas come to the Sri Meenakshi Sundareswar temple to observe the celestial wedding. Rituals during Meenakshi Thirukalyanam. On the day of Thirukalyanam, devotees get up at sunrise and reach the Meenakshi temple. After taking a holy dip in the golden lotus pond, they wear clean clothes. Goddess Meenakshi is first worshipped by the traditional methods, following which prayers are offered to Vibhuti Vinayagar. On this day, devotees sing devotional songs and bhajans and wear the holy hours known as Uttraksham while entering the temple premises. At the completion of the event, magnificent idols of Lord Sundareshwarar and Meenakshi are taken out in huge procession on the street in the Pushpa Pallakku and Yanai Vahanam. This festival is observed during the month of Chitrai in Tamil calendar. Chitrai Tiruvila is an annual event celebrated with great pomp in the month of April as per Gregorian calendar. It's known to be the world's longest celebrations that last for a period of 1 month, that is 30 days. This first 15 days are dedicated to goddess Meenakshi, and the remaining 15 days is celebrated for Alagar, who is known to be a form of Mahavishnu. Alagar is the elder brother of Meenakshi, and he visited Madurai to attend the marriage ceremony of Lord Shiva and Meenakshi. Architecture and paintings. The Meenakshi temple is a prime example of Dravidian architecture, a style of Hindu architecture common in the southern states of India. Characteristics of Dravidian architecture often include covered on the temple's tall entry gate towers, and two or more sides, many pillared halls, and a water tank or reservoir for ritual bathing. The temple's shrines, pillars, sculptures, and paintings are populated with a dazzling quantity of divine beings who engage in various activities, can manifest in multiple cases and places simultaneously or subject to dissolution and rebirth. In total, the temple contains around 30,000 sculptures. Madurai Meenakshi temple is an architectural wonder. When one climbs to the top of the south tower to have a bird's eye view of Madurai, one can't but wonder about the engineering skills of fort. There is a best temple which were wonders of the world. It is one of the World Heritage Sites announced by UNESCO. The paintings and everything is very beautiful in this. Green is the color as the deity carved from emerald color stones. So I think I have shared some of the information about Madurai Meenakshi temple. So with this I wind up my session. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. In fact, the historical account which you gave about the Meenakshi temple, right from the name to one of the temples which was not having a roof for 3 centuries, is an amazing information which at least I was not knowing. And also, you gave us an account of the festivals, of the celebrations, of the traditions, of the rituals which are performed over there. And that was really, 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 and truly amazing.
you, sir.
So, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, I will request our second speaker, that is Miss Varunani ji, for her presentation. Varunani ji is from the Nagapattinam district of Tamil Nadu. She has a working experience as a teacher for around or even more than 12 years. She is a poet and has written more than 300 poems, and she's the author of a book on the memory of former President APJ Abdul Kalam. She has also participated in more than 100 public speaking debates around Tamil Nadu. She's also the state resource person for ICT trainings of Tamil Nadu State Education Department, and she's the district coordinator of TNSF and the member of district question creating wing of TN State Education Department. So, ma'am, I welcome you to this webinar and also request you with your presentation.
Present, good evening to all present here. I'm very happy to talk in the Sacred Art and Architecture of Tamil Nadu and Kashmir webinar. I'm thankful to Brother Virendra Bangru for this wonderful opportunity, and I'm grateful to my Tamil Nadu ancestors for this wonderful opportunity to talk about this architecture and the special things of my state. And thank you all. Let me start with mine. I'm going to view my presentation using a rear view of my camera. I'm going to talk about the great Tanjore Big Temple. The big temple of Tanjore. It's a pride of our Sora Mandalam. And this temple is otherwise called as Rajarajeshwara Temple, Perudayar Temple, Pragadishwara Temple. These are all the other names of temple. Let me show you the overall elevation of the temple. This is the overall view of the great Pragadishwara temple. This temple has two great entrances, that is Karalandakan Gopuram and Rajarajan Gopuram. Two Gopuram entrances. Afterwards, the temple will be there. This temple was built by Arun Mozhivarman. We fondly call him as Rajaraja Solan from 1985 to 1015 AD. He has taken 6 years to complete the building, complete the temple, and it was completed in 1010 AD. This temple portrays the wealth and power, artistic expertise of Tamil, especially Cholas. You can see this with a video, and this is a site of major royal ceremonies, and this is the first fully built granite building in our Tamil Nadu. This temple was built by the great Rajaraja Perundachan, who is the architect and engineer of that overall elevation building. His name is Rajaraja Perundachan, and you can see many who are all worked for the temple, who are all the menial laborers who worked for the temple. Also, their name was in stone in the temple. For this, they have used only granite, and the granite was available in Nartha Malai, which is around 6.44 kilometers from Tanjavur, and they have collected that granite stones from Nartha Malai using the mode through elephants. They used a heavy force of elephant to collect stones from Nartha Malai to Tanjavur, and they have built using the granite stones. And you can see the overall view of the building. In that, you can see that Beedam, the Beedam and the Lingam. The Beedam is about 18 feet height. The 18 feet resembles the consonants of Tamil letters. The 18 consonant letters of Tamil was resembled in that 18 feet, and the Shiva Linga was about 12 feet. This 12 feet resembles the 12 vowel sounds of Tamil. The 12 vowel sounds of Tamil was resembled in this 12 feet height, and overall the Vimana height was about 216 feet. This 216 feet resembles the both vowels and consonants of Tamil sounds, 216 letters, and we can see all the letters in the sculptures of the temple. And from between Nandi and the Vimana, the gap is 247 feet. 247 feet between Nandi and the Vimana. This resembles overall the vowels, consonants, the Aida Elithu and Uyirmai of all the Tamil letters. The overall Tamil letters, 247 letters, is resembled by this feat. So these are all the things, the perfect resemblance of Tamil Nadu Dravidian culture and Tamil. It's a tribute to the ancient old Semmozhi Tamil. It was given in this temple, and it has crossed thousands of decades, hundreds of decades, and it has crossed a century, and it is tolerating after many natural calamities and many earthquakes, and it has crossed. And what do you know? They have used purely stones and sand. No, there is no cement or any other materials used for building this temple. They have only used sand and granite, and the building texture accepts the earthquakes, and the building adjusts for the earth's shakes and movements. This is the speciality of this temple's architecture, and this was built by none other than the one and only Rajaraja Solan, who is called as Arunmozhivarman, who was the son of Vanama Devi and Parandaka Cholan, who was the second son of Vanama Devi and Parandaka Cholan. And his period is a golden period of Chola kingdom, 30 years. He has given more importance to the literature and women also. He has even inscripted the names of his wife and his sister who contributed the jewels for the creation of this temple, and also the 4 Vedas. He has collected the 4 Vedas from Chidambaram temple, and he has made all the Tamil Vedas, that is Panniru Tirumuregal, Saiva Tirumuregal, we call it as Tirumuregal in Tamil. All the things he has gathered from Chidambaram, and for that he has created 4. There was a rule there. All the Nalvar of Saiva age has to come, and they have to give it back to them. He has created the 4 golden statue of that Nalvar, and he submitted in front of the Chidambaram temple, and he has collected the Saiva Tirumurai from that temple, and he displayed all the things in scriptures. He has given more importance to literature, women, and also he has built so many wonderful places for Saivam literature. Here you can see the picture. This is the 80-ton top cap, the huge top cap of the Vimana. I have to say about the building's future and the Vimana. The base temple is about 16 feet height, and the Kalasam Vimanam is about 81.28 tons, a single stone block made of 81.28 tons weight. You just imagine, without any JCB or without any heavy vehicle or heavy carriers in that age, in that 80s, they have lifted that much of weight to that much of height. The height is about 216 kilometers. 216 feet. How they have lifted is, they have used inclination flat. They have used the inclination flat around 6.44 kilometers from the Tanjavur. That place is, till now, that place is named as Sarapallam. That village is called as Sarapallam. From that area, they have put an inclination of around 6.44 kilometers, and they have used elephants and human power to take that much of weight to that peak. That Vimana is around 81 tons, and for breaking that granite, that heavyweight granite, they have broken. They don't have that much of machineries to break the heavy granites. What the method they have used is, they have just simply put a small woolly in the stone in between, and they pour water. They have put a seed and they have poured water. When the seed begin to grow and grow and grow, the granite will begin to break. They have used the technique to broken the big granites into pieces, and they have lifted with the inclination wall, and they have keep that one to the tower. And especially we have to say about the story. This is a 15-story Vimana. The first story is about The first story is about 81 dance karnas. It has 81 dance karnas. You can see in Bharatanatyam, the 81 dance karnas were portrayed in the first story, and 15-story height the building is, and the linga is about, the Shiva lingam is about 12 feet height, and the Bidam is about 18 feet height. I told you already, totally 30 feet height. Usually when a temple is, anyone is constructing a temple, they will construct the overall temple and they will place the Garbhagraha, the statue, the sacred idol. But in this Pragadishwara temple, the lingam was kept inside already before the Vimana was built up. After keeping the lingam inside the temple only, they built the Vimana around the lingam. The lingam is that much height. And the lingam, another one important thing is Nandi, the sacred bull. You can see the Nandi here. That Nandi is also a single rock which is 12 feet height, 19.5 feet long, and 18.25 feet wide. That is a very heavy, 20 times weight bull, sacred bull. And this stone was taken from the bed of the river Narmada from the north. After Rajaraja Cholan conquered the north, he has collected the stone from the bed of the river Narmada and he has built up it as a sacred Nandi. There is a belief that the Nandi is growing day by day. From when they built, it is growing day by day. There is a belief is there. And you can see the paintings. The paintings are also the special thing of that Rajaraja Cholan Tanjavur big temple, because the speciality of the temple is the Chola frescoes. The Chola frescoes is a painting discovered in 1931 in Aradhana Mandapam. The passage of corridor is 2 layers of paintings from floor to ceiling. A smooth batter of limestone mixture is applied over the stones, which will take 2-3 days for setting. Within this short span, such a large paintings were painted with natural colors like fruit and vegetable juices. During the Nayaka period, the Chola paintings were overprinted by the Nayakas. These have certain labels in Telugu characters, mention the name of Savappa and Achutappa and others. These are all the specials of these paintings, and you can see the color of this painting. This color is still now, this color is not fade. That much of special nature is in this picture. And now this is a standing victory after centuries, and I am happy and I am proud to present this Chola Mandalam in my video. Sorry, I have composed this all in a single PPT, but I am getting some distractions to share this. Wait a minute. You can see the overall view here. These are all the 81 Bharatanatyam Karnas input. This is the biggest Nandi. And this is the 81 tons Vimana. The overall eye view, eagle eye view of temple. These are all outer Pragaram. This is Keralandagan Gopuram, the entrance, and Rajarajan Gopuram, the second entrance. And this is the Aradhana Mandapam. These are all statues in scripture. The olden pictures of Tanjore temple. These are old pictures of the temple. And some more special things are there. That is nothing but the shadow, non-falling shadow of Vimana. That Vimana has a structure of pyramidal structure, and the shadow will not fall down in the pragaram when we are walking there. That much they have used their architectural skill, and they have created a non-falling shadow Vimana. And also the two entrances. Karalantagan Gopuram is the first entrance. This Gopuram is named as Karalantagan, who is called as Rajaraja Solan after his success over Kerala King Bhaskara Vikrama. The first stage Gopuram has 5 stages. The 5 stage has the Shiva's Rutra Tandava forms. All the Rutra Tandava forms of Lord Shiva was in that 5 stage Gopuram. And the second stage Gopuram is Rajaraja Gopuram. The Rajaraja Gopuram is 15 feet, has 15 feet height monolithic Dwarabalas. These are also Dwarabalas made of single stone, monolithic two Dwarabalas on each side, and they will show how the how the Lord is everywhere. What is the speciality of that is the God is everywhere, as shown by the upper two hands, and the pose of right hand index finger denotes the God is one and only one. The Dwarabalas reveal that Tattva of God is everywhere. This was in that temple's outside, and in overall, the temple is the biggest proud and pride to Chola Mandalam and also to Tamil Nadu. This temple centuries, and we have a commemoration centenary function on 2010, and our government, our Tamil Nadu government has honored with 1,000 rupees note with the envelope of Bragadishwara temple in the backside, and we have coins on the memory of 2010 100 years 1000 years completion. And also we have some speciality functions we have, that is Sivan Ratri. We celebrate Sivan Ratri with a very fame Bharatanatyam and many events on the temple. And also Rajaraja Solan Sadaya Vila is one of the important festival, that is the birth nakshatra of Rajaraja Solan. That Rajaraja Solan Sadaya Vila was also an important festival there. And this temple has some secret paths, Surangam, secret paths there, which will go to Rameshwaram, even Rameshwaram temple, and it will go to palace, Tanjore Aranmane, and special Punga, Sivagangai Punga is there. The temple has some secret paths to go there. That much of architecture was inculcated in that 1010 AD by Rajaraja Solan the Great, and I'm feeling proud to talk about this Pragadishwara temple. I think so. I have shared very few things about this Pragadishwara temple. There is a lot of mysteries and lot of proud things behind this, and I'm extending my warm welcome to all of you to this Tanjore temple, and definitely you will explore more and more than what I have said. Thank you for this pleasant opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In fact, we are also proud of our culture because Tamil Nadu is also part of our country and we are definitely very proud of it. In fact, I'm very happy to also share with you that I belong to the land of Narmadas, from where also this temple as well as the architecture is associated. In fact, thank you so much for sharing the video. It was not only illustrative but also informative. And the way things have been done, whether it was the say inclination to whether usages of say elephants to how you put a seed inside the granite to break it up once it will grow, because we know that it goes like that, and all those not only the architectural secrets but also that there are secret roads to other temples as well, was an amazing illustration as well as information for all of us. And I'm pretty sure that some people will definitely get benefited with these understandings and these informations, because not many of us know about all these things these days. And especially it is really means whenever I start thinking about on all these things, so I really feel very inquisitive that during those days, as you rightly pointed out, that we were not having JCBs, we were not having all these big machines, and still such large, beautiful, big majestic temples were built, and especially in the southern part of India, whether it is Tamil Nadu, whether it is the other states as well. And I have been fortunate to travel to some of these places, and I really feel like it is not only an architectural brilliance, but also a mathematical question in front of us, that how these things have been done, means how it has been created. And all of them are more than 1,000 years old now, and they still stay strong and beautiful. And as you said, that there is a common belief that the Nandi is growing, right? So it is getting
Yes.
bigger and bigger with each and every passing day or year. So these are some beautiful things, and thank you so much for sharing, Raniji. So with this,
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
will.
sir.
Thank you, thank you. With this, I will request our next speaker. Our next speaker is uh, our next speaker is Manikanandan ji. He is from the Ramanathapuram district of Tamil Nadu. He has 22 years of working experience as a teacher. So we welcome you, sir. And he's also an artist, writer, poet, and singer. So I'm very pleased to welcome you with this kind of profile. Very few people come, because an artist as well as a singer as well as poet, writer, and a teacher is like an amazing combination, I will say, because if you are having all these traits in your, say, DAG or Kitty, so I guess so you put up a very, very good show in front of students when you are teaching. So thank you so much for joining today, and I welcome you for your presentation, sir.
Good evening. I would like to present my presentation with a familiar quotation of Swami Thwaimanava. எல்லோரும் இன்புற்றிருக்க நினைப்பதுவே அல்லாமல் வேறுந்தரே பராபரமே. It means, oh God, I beg you for none but the welfare of all. Good evening, everybody. I am very happy to take part in this webinar. I am very glad to welcome you all to enjoy the sacred art and architecture of Tamil Nadu. Before that, I would like to share an interesting event happened in our former President, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's life. Once his visit in a foreign country, person asked him, where did he come from? Dr. Kalam replied, from paradise. All were shocked. Dr. Kalam replied that he explained that the Prophet Muhammad Nabi's quote, paradise is at the feet of our mother. Like that, Ramanathapuram is at the feet of Bharat Mata. So that I come from paradise, he told me. Now, I'm going to tell something about the paradise of India, Rameswaram, as we are the children of our Bharat Mata. Rameswaram is located in the district of Ramanathapuram. Now I share my presentation. Welcome to the webinar, the sacred art and architecture of Tamil Nadu. I think there are 4 cities in India get more familiarity when they named with another city. Those are Kashmir, Kanyakumari, Kasi, and Rameswaram. The first pair, Kashmir and Kanyakumari, is familiar for roadways. The second pair, Kashi and Rameswaram, is familiar for godways. The most famous pilgrimage center in India are Kashi and Rameswaram. Especially once a sacred trip to Kashi from South India begins from and ends in Rameswaram. Rameswaram's sand and holy water, Agni Tirtham, and Kashi's Ganga water are exchanged for Abhishekam. Rameswaram is famous for the temple Sri Ramanatha Swami. The temple has a sound history and valuable architecture. Let's see this presentation. Tamil Nadu, Rameswaram location. Rameswaram is located in the district of Ramanathapuram, which is in the southeast of Tamil Nadu as well as India. Sir, is the presentation is visible?
The presentation is visible, but the slides are not moving, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, now it is fine. Now it is fine.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you can go on with the slides.
Okay, sir. Rameswaram's location. You can see this map of Rameswaram Island, also named as Pamban Island. Rameswaram is in the district of Ramanathapuram, which is located in the southeast of Tamil Nadu. It is a coastal region. And this is the east tower of Ramanatha Swami temple, which is towards east, and we can go to the Agni Tirtham. That is the first Tirtham of Rameshwar. That is the sea. Rameshwaram, the name of Rameshwaram is from the Ramanatha Swami, Rama Ishwar. That is the Ramachandra Prabhu worshipped God Shiva, Ishwar. So that we call Rameshwar. And Ramanatha Swami means the Swami of Ramchandra Prabhu. It was, sorry. It was constructed since the 20th century with the Sethupathi Marava. There are so many empires and kings ruled over this area. Pandyan dynasty from 12th century and the Rajendra Cholan of son of Mr. Rajaraja Cholan had ruled this area of 7th century. And Jaffna kingdom, that is the rulers of Yalpana, Sri Lanka, had also ruled over this part, and Vijayanagaram Empire, and Manikapur, who is the leader of Mughal Emperor Gilchi, also ruled this area. In his period, a mosque was built here, and 15th century to now, this temple maintenance is in the hand of Sethupathi's reign. Sethupathi's Maravar, those are the kings for this area. And this, now you see this corridor, the famous third corridor of Ramanath Swami temple. It has around 1,212 pillars. Wait a minute, please. Yes, this is one of God Shiva of this temple worshipped by Sri Ramachandra Prabhu. This is one of the 276 sacred places of Saiva devotees. The Tirunavukkarasar and already Varnani ma'am quoted four Nayanmars, Appar Sundarar and Jnana Sambandar Manikavasagar. Among the four, three sages, Naimas, they are Tirunavukkarasar, Sundarar, and Thiruñana Sambandar wrote verses about this god Ramanatha Swami. This is one of the Padal Petratala and goddess Parvati. The name of God is Ramanatha Swami, and the goddess name is Parvata Vartini. Saivites and Vaishnavites visit here as a pilgrimage trip. This temple is worshipped for two groups, Saivites and Vaishnavites of the South Indian. The 22 holy wells having tirthams in this temple. First, the devotee should have a bath at Agni Tirtham, and then these 22 holy tirthams within the premises of this temple. This is one of the 12 Jyotirlinga places of India, and only one Jyotirlinga place in South India. Remaining are in North India. Kashi Yatra from South India begins from and ends in Rameshwaram. The longest third corridor in Asia and the third temple in the world, having 1,200 around 1,440 feet as perimeter. And Swami Vivekananda had visited here, and he had written a note here, and it was in the entrance of that first corridor. And there are so many shrines like Ramar Patham and Godanda Rama temple and Egambaranatha temple, Lakshmana Tirtham, Sita Tirtham, Jadai Tirtham, and some Anjaneya temples within the premises of 10 kilometers around Rameshwaram. And the Kodandarama Swami Koil, Kodandarama temple is on the way to Dhanushkodi. It's a wonderful place. So many of them are in the coastal area. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I guess so. You have shared the screen. You need to stop sharing your screen. It was indeed a pleasure to hear you, especially the sacred art and architecture of Rameshwaram. And yes, it is true that it is one of the Jyotirlingas which is present in the south. And I might add that the other Jyotirlingas are not only in the north part of India, but are also on the east and west part of India as well. So maybe we can add this thing up, that India is not divided in terms of South India and North India. There is East India and West India as well. And I belong to the Central India, so I guess so there can be one more part which we can say. But on the fun, that was on the fun part. But truly speaking, we enjoyed your presentation. Now let us move with the webinar's, I will say, the final presentation. And the final presentation is by none other than my good friend, Dr. Virendra Bangru. Virendra Bangru is an artist, an art historian, and a trained museologist. Virendra Bangru has traversed the length and breadth of Himalaya, He is an avid photographer and has captured landscape, masteries, way of life of the Himalayan region. So he's very much interested in this part of the country, and he also represents this part of the country. He has been instrumental in setting up museums in Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh. So Ladakh was basically a part of this erstwhile state, but now it has become another union territory. He has curated a number of thematic exhibitions on Indian art and culture, and coordinated Kashmir Festival and Third Aryan Festival at IGNCA. He has extensively surveyed and documented ancient temples related and artifacts in Kashmir region. Exhibition curated by him on Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore was exhibited at 10 different destinations in India and was on view for 6 months in South Korea as well. He is an author of many publications, and his recent publication is titled The Himalayan Cults. In fact, he served as the honorary advisor to the Lalit Kala Academy, New Delhi, and presently he is the director of the Regional Center of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts um, in this region, and we are hosting at Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University. So I welcome you, sir, and I invite you with your presentation.
You're so nice of you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sumanta Sarthi Sharma ji. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And we had a very wonderful presentations, brilliant presentations on sacred art and architecture of Tamil Nadu, highlighting Meenakshi Temple, the great grand Brideshwara, and sacred Rameshwaram. So coming to this Indian temple architecture, so we can classify into two major broader orders. You know, this temple architecture over here in this subcontinent. One is Nagara Shaili, which is North Indian, and the Dravida Shaili, that we see in North India, and the temples which were talked about in this prestigious seminar, Meenakshi, then Brideshwara and Rameshwara. They are classified in the Dravidian style, and then there's a Vesara style also. It is independent style and created through mixing of Nagara and Dravida orders. When we come to this North Indian architecture, temple architecture, in this architecture we see curvilinear superstructure, that is the Shikhara, which is the most prominent element of the temple. And in the style, the gateway and the boundary is less emphasized in comparison to Dravidian style, which we'll be talking, which you all have talked about. And in this Nagara Shaili, we see Ganga and Yamuna rivers are depicted in personified form at the entrance of Garbhagriha or sanctorum. In Nagara, there may be main Shikhara with multiple small Shikharas, on the top of Shikhara, which is called Anga Shikhara. And we see it in a number of temples, the one being the prominent, this Khajuraho. We have the Anga Shikharas also over there. When this Naga Shikara, the pedestals are higher than the ground, and the deities are inside the temple in the Nagara Sani. In comparison, when we're all talking about the Dravida style. According to the Shilpa Shastra, those temples which are situated between Krishna River and the Kanyakumari, they follow this Dravidian architecture, art and architecture. This style has pyramidal, shaped central tower called Vimana. You all discussed about the Vimana. We have Vimana in Meenakshi, we have in Brideshwara, the Rameshwaram, the Vimana. And the Gopuram. Gopuram is the entrance of the temple. Gopuram is the entrance of the temple, and it's more prominent and big in comparison to Nagara style. We see in Nagara, Gopuram is not so big. The gateway is not so big. And the boundaries of temple is also elaborate, in this Dravida style. And the temple has low pedestals for deities. The Dravida style also were used for administrative activities, in South India. So now we're coming to this, coming to Kashmir. Kashmir the architecture is a little bit different, going to the, the prevailing atmosphere, the environment over there. So we have this is the architecture is called Pamasana. This is also, this also comes under the category of Nagara, and this is classified as a Pamasana. We have this double paramedical roof, on the main sanctum sanctorum. Now coming to this Kashmir, this architecture of Kashmir, uh, in this slide you'll see that this is the map of Jammu and Kashmir, and now it is important to see the map, study the map, the boundaries as such. Now this Kashmir, Kashmir used to be clubbed together with Gandhara, and this was one of the Mahajanpadas, 16 Mahajanpadas, during Mauryan period. And now Kashmir, when we talk of Kashmir, we mostly talk about the valley, Kashmir Valley. We don't talk about that, that greater Kashmir, in which there was a part which is now under Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and then Pakistan also, and also this part of Himachal and Punjab was also part of this Kashmir. Now, coming to this present day, this map, and you see this green area, where green part in this slide. You see that it comprises of Gilgit, Baltistan, Gilgit Wizarat, Chilas, and then we have this Muzaffarabad and Mirpur. This is under Pak occupied Kashmir. This is Pak occupied Kashmir, forcibly occupied by Pakistan. This very part, and then the red part. This is Aksai Chin. This is under the occupation of forced occupation of Chinese. Now this center part is with us. This one. Now coming to this part, we have now. Uh, Earlier it was the erstwhile state of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh during Dogra regime. This entire Kashmir you see on the slides, it was with Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, and even the part of the Tibet. It was part of this Dogra regime. Then after 1947, we see the changes taking place. Then Pakistan forcibly occupying our territories. This green part is that, and then after 60s, we see China occupying over this red part. They have occupied it, and now we are confined this territory, that is this Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh, which will see on this map. Now it has again been bifurcated into two union territories. We have Ladakh, and then there is Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory, and in this Kashmir, when we talk of Kashmir Valley as such, in Kashmir Valley was dotted with temples, so mostly on the bank of this river Vetasta, which is called Jahlim. This river Vetasta, once it crosses Muzaffarabad, it is called Jahlim, but now this river is also called Jahlim, and this river Vetasta was very important, used for navigation and irrigation, and it was a lifeline of Kashmir Valley. Our focus will be presently on the Kashmir Valley, and of course there are a number of monasteries in Ladakh region, and then in temple there are very elegant, very imposing temples in Jammu. I should mention it before I talk about come to the Avantipur temple. We have very grand and imposing temples, but now they are left in ruins in Jammu, this part, Jammu province of Jammu and Kashmir UT. And in Udaipur district, we have number of temples that we have at Manwal. At Manwal, we have Devi Bhagwati temple, then we have Kala Dera temple, then we have Nand Babo temple in Manwal area of Udhampur, and these temples are under the protection of this and protection and care of Orthodox Church of India. These temples over there. Then there is another group of temples. It is Kirimichi temple, and this also is under Orthodox Church of India. These two groups are very important temples, and they are dated 10th, 11th century on the base of style and other related findings over there. And apart from this thing, we have the Buddhist monasteries, in Aknur region of this Jammu. And when coming to Kashmir, as I told you that this river Vetasta, also called Jahlim, on the banks of it, civilizations came up from time to time, and beautiful temples were built, on both the banks of river Vetasta. And one of the temple is Avanti Soman temple. This slide which you are seeing over there, earlier style, sir. This is how it used to look like. This one you see power on the power of on the you will see there is a flow of river. This river is there exactly on the bank of river where these ruins. So only this part of the gateway which we called Gopuram in the Dravidian style. Here, this gateway, only this upper part of this gateway was visible. And the earliest mention of this thing in European accounts is by George Foster in 1783. He mentions that these are the ruins of the temple, and the people in Kashmir, they used to call them Pandavalaria, and that they related them to Pandavas as such. Uh, but then this it was reported again. It was reported by John Marshall. He reported it, and then a plan was formulated to excavate this region because only few stones were visible, and most of the temple it was beneath, and it needed to be excavated, properly excavated. And then in 1910, under JC Chatterjee, this excavation work of this area started, and then it was further taken up by Dayaram Sahani in 1913. Next slide, sir. Now you see, these ruins came out after the excavation of 1913, and such a imposing ruins spread all over. So this was the Avanti Somin temple, and this temple is mentioned in Rajatarangni, written by Pandit Kalhana. He mentions building up of two temples at this place. This is how it was correlated, that this is the temple. This was correlated because of the deity which was enshrined here, and in this this Paravasudev Vaikuntha was worshipped in this temple. And then Pandit Kalana also mentioned that this Avanti Somin, this was built by Avanti Varman, this temple, and he built two temples. One was Avanti Somin temple. There was Avantishwara temple. Avanti Somin temple was dedicated to Lord Vishnu, and Avantishwara temple was dedicated to Lord Shiva. Now, when this excavation work was undertaken at this place, a lot of antiquities, they were unearthed from this site. You see these imposing ruins, they are still left there. So this is the layout plan of this temple. You see in this layout plan, I'll be further talking about it. And coming to this antiquity and wealth which was excavated from this site, it included coins, terracotta figurines, and then there were some fragments of birch bark. Please go to the previous, sir. The slides are jumping, previous one. So the birch bark manuscript fragments, and then inscription on a pot shed, it dated to 1527 AD, 1583 Vikrami, corresponding to 1527 AD. Then apart from that, there was a huge collection of coins was collected from this site. Starting from the earliest coins were from Tormana, then to Shankar Varman, who followed Avanti Varman, King Avanti Varman. Then we have Shemagupta, Queen Dida, Sangram Raja, Ananta, Raja Kalsha, Harsha, Sushala, and all these rulers, they had minted coins, and these coins were found at this temple site. And then coming to this plan, as you see this plan, this is very interesting. This plan as such, this, as you seen from the ruins, the superstructure is no more there. It was razed to ground by the destructive hands of the invaders in this region, and well, you see, it has got a cellular peristyle. This one, this temple, and this has around 67 cells, all around. And the center courtyard. There are facing the center courtyard. There are cells, 67 cells, and here you see that in the center there is the Garbhagriha, and on the four corners there are four subsidiary shrines, and this is called the Panchayatana. And this main shrine, it was Trirathayan plan having three projections at three corners, and then this used to take up and form the, and on on top of it, it was surmounted by the double pyramidal roof, which I mentioned, that it is mentioned as Pamasana in Vishnu Dharmata Puran, this kind of architecture. And then you see it had this the entrance is from the western side to this temple, and on both the sides there are six cells, and as I mentioned there were 67 cells inside the temple, and in the each cell it was a small temple, and each cell the deities were placed of various gods, of the Vaishnavite cult. They were placed inside the thing. And as our earlier the speakers they mentioned the pillared halls as such. So here we had the colonnade peristyle. We had pillars, in between the cells there was one pillar, and the pillars were all around the courtyard. This used to give very mighty, very elegant look, and the beautiful composition used to come out from this kind of arrangement. And there are many sculpted. Next slide, sir. Next slide. Yes, here is the the portrait of King Avanti Varman. Avanti Varman is depicted here. He is offering worship, and he was a devoted Vaishnavite, and he is offering worship over here. He is not shown crowned here because he was as a prince. He is shown here. Then we had another, this his portrait is available here in this temple. Next slide, sir. Here again, he is with his queen, and he's offering worship. And in fact, this is a place for sort of a coronation ceremony. That the crowns are exchanged. You can see the crown is being offered to him, and this was the coronation ceremony of King Avantivarman. And we have only three portraits available. Two are in this temple courtyard, Avanti Swamin temple, and one portrait of Avanti Varman is in Avantishwara temple, which is nearby this place. And coming to this Avanti Swamin temple, this is little bit now away from the this main this river. In fact, earlier it should be on the bank of river. Now river has also changed the course over the years, and this has moved away. And this Avanti Varman, king who built this temple, who laid the foundation, it is said in Rajatarangani that this was a sacred site. This was a very sacred site, and on this sacred site, King Avantivarman he planned a big imposing temple. And Avantivarman, he ruled from 855 to 883, AD, and his rule was very 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 peaceful and prosperous. He laid foundation of many irrigation works. Especially he is known for his irrigation works, which were carried forth by his able minister Suya. And on his name Suya, there is Suyapur, which is now Sopor, present day Sopor, which was established, which was settled by his minister. And he built many temples, in Kashmir Valley as such. And this one also, this Avanti Swamin temple, very imposing, beautiful temple. And there are the number of temples, number of these small shrines, subsidiary shrines, and the cells all around. They all contain beautiful images. And one of the images, we are not sure whether from which place it was taken. This was excavated from this place of this Vaikuntha Vaishnav, and this was exit from this place. It now finds place. It was placed in. It was later on placed in Gadadhar temple in the old secretariat, also called the old secretariat complex is in Srinagar, and in this complex, this area is called Shergadi. This was the seat of power of Dogra regime. Their palatial complex was housed here, and later it was converted to old secretariat, and now we have new secretariat. Now it becomes old secretariat, and in this old secretariat there is a temple, and in this temple under worship is this Vaikuntha image, very imposing Vaikuntha image. It is there. It is intact. And the rest of the images which were recovered from this place, they were all broken, and they find now place in this SPS museum. Now this while leading to the main this Sanctum Sanctorum. This sculpted panel over here you are seeing is of Kamadeva. Kamadeva Kamadeva is also depicted in Vaishnavite temples also, and Kamadeva is in the company of Rati and Priti. His two consorts, they are depicted here on this thing, and also in the same on the same panel, there are sculpted stones depicting the portraits of King Avanti Varman that we have shown earlier. Next slide, sir. Yes, here, as I told you, when I was talking about the Nagara style in temples, particularly in North India, we have on the both sides of the entrances, we have the images of Ganga and Jamuna. So Ganga is shown, on he's shown standing on Makara. The Vahana of Ganga is Makar, crocodile, and the Vahana of Yamuna is this tortoise, Kochwa. And these depictions are also there on the temple walls, especially in the main gateway. As I told you, this gateway is double chambered. Especially we see in some of the temples which were made on a bigger scale, especially in Kashmir. We have this Avanti Swamin temple, then we have this Avantishwara temple, this is the Shiva temple, then we have a group of temples at Narana. This is Bhutesha and Zishtesha group of temples. Then we have the great mighty Mapan, this Martin temple, Suri temple. It is again is in Anantnag district. Then in Baramulla district we have two big imposing temples. One is at Bunyar, the other one is at Datha. So, and in all these temples, we'll see, the similar sort of a layout, that is the colonnaded peristyle. We have the colonnaded, these cells. They are facing towards the main courtyard. Then with the double chambered imposing gateway, it in size it is of the same. It is of the main Garbhagriha in size, and these are the unique things about Kashmir temples you will see. And here also in this Avanti Swamin temple, we see Ganga and Jamuna depicted on the temple walls. And they have been destroyed beyond recognition. Some of them. It was especially this temple. This Avanti Swamin temple was profusely carved. The exteriors and interior also, and I have personally seen there are traces of color also. So it means that the interiors were also painted. And apart from that, I found a pot shed of a head, broken head. So on the pot shed also there were traces of color. It points to the fact that the idols, the sculpted panels which were on the exterior of the temple and the inside of the temple, they were all painted. So how elegant it must have looked like when it was built, this imposing temple. So let me tell you that this particular site, this Avanti Swamin and this Avantishwara temple, it is 30 kilometers away from Srinagar city, main city. It is on the Jammu Srinagar highway, and it is very much approachable, and it is under the protection of Orchestra of India. Both these temples. Next slide, sir. So this is another temple I was mentioning about, this Ganga and Jamuna. So this is the depiction in this relief, and you see there this Yamuna. This is also set on in a shrine. Like both the pillars are there. On top of it comes this double pyramidal roof, which is characteristic of the Kashmir temple architecture, especially this main this Garbhagriha, and it was surmounted by this double pyramidal roof. And then there was the finale was up this kalasha that was there. Next slide. Next, sir. This again is one of the sculpted those leaves over there. This is the the cells all around. Next, sir. These are the cells now in ruins and restored to some extent by Orchestra of India. The roof is not there above the cells, so it must have been very imposing sight when it was built at the time. And the other day I was talking about temples of Kashmir at another forum. I told them that when we talk of temple building as such, we glorify it and we talk about the temple building plans and the execution plans, but when it comes to the destruction by some people as such, we don't mention it at all. We need to talk about the how why it was destroyed, how it was destroyed, who are the people behind. They destroyed these elegant artistic edifices as such. Now in Kashmir, we see the credit goes to Sikandar, King Sultan Sikandar. He's said to have destroyed temples in Kashmir. He destroyed most of the temples. Then other rulers also followed him. We have the account of Araki, Shamsuddin Araki. He was also on a mission to destroy the temples in Kashmir. So there were some elements who were bent upon destroying the cultures, destroying the civilizations as such, and then still these survive. These civilizational, the prints, they are still there. The relics are there. The ruins, as you see, they are as imposing, and one can imagine from the ruins how elegant these buildings were built with sculpted panels, with sculptures, with enshrined, vigraha of gold, silver, metal vigrahas were there, murtis were there in there, enshrining this thing. And here we have the unique, the concept of Chaturmurti, Chatur Vishnu, which was worshipped here, also called Vaikunta here. So this is very very unique, this thing. And this concept, especially of this Chaturvyu Vishnu, Chaturarna Vaikuntha Vishnu, it is based on the Pancharatra Vaishnavite text. And in this concept, this Lord Vishnu is shown, four-faced Vishnu is shown, and we have a lot of icons, lot of murtis, which were unearthed from this place, and they are now placed in this SPS museum. And not only that, we have the same very thing, same very trait being followed elsewhere also. It extended all over and the Pak, Kashmir. We have reported images from there also, reported murtis, and also from this from Himachal region also, this Chaturarna Vishnu, and Chaturarna Chaturvyu Vaikuntha images are from rest of India also. But here it developed a certain characteristics of unique artistic features which you can see, especially from this site especially. When we talk of the four mukhas of this Vaikuntha Vishnu, we have Shankarsana, we have first of all this Shankarsana, then there is Aniruddha, then there is Pradyumna, and Shankarsana is line-headed, and it is on the right side of this Vaikuntha. On the left side is boar-headed, that's Aniruddha, and on the back side is fierce Kapila, is Pradyumna. So as per the text, it is said that when we talk of the symbolism which is associated with the creation of this image, that is that the Shankarsana, it begins the process of creation, Shankarsana, and then this theory of creation which he starts, Shankarsana. The theory of creation is put to practice by Aniruddha, and the liberation is achieved through Pradyumna. And in the center is Paravasudev Vaikuntha Vishnu. So this is the concept behind it, and very beautiful, very 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 elegant. These murtis are from this site and from other sites also from Kashmir, and this is one of the important, this architecture feats from Kashmir. One should visit it, and once you visit it, you can appreciate the beauty of its architecture, which is now left in ruins, but still you can make out how elegant, how beautiful it was. And apart from that, the images, the murtis, the vigrahas which were discovered from this site, they are now placed in SPS Museum, and SPS Museum also need to be visited simultaneously in order to understand the art in order to associate this art with this architecture. So since now they shifted to SPS museum, and but then we need to study it together to understand the importance of art and architecture, which go side by side in temple architecture of Kashmir and elsewhere also. And this is also very important. And when there's another temple which I should mention here, since we are talking about the Savanti Swamin temple, and furlong away from this site from Avanti Swamin temple is Avantishwara temple. Avantishwara temple, it is dedicated to Lord Shiva. This temple, and it has got a very imposing gateway leading to courtyard with silver style. This temple also has got, and this was open from all the four sides, the main Garbhagriha. So this kind of this architecture also, it finds mention in Vaishno Dharmottara Puran. So these Purans are very important, and these Purans give us very insights not only about the concepts behind it, the temple making, temple building, but also about its architectural details also. The measurements, they're also mentioned in our Shishilpa Shastras also, and also in this Vastu Shastra they are mentioned. And we have a lot of these texts, they are still available, and they need to be translated. That is going on. There are translated versions also available, and they need to be taken up by by students of by architecture schools in our country. They should study these things. They very elaborately written these texts about this architecture. And recently, I came to know that not only about the architectural edifices, the temples which were built, not only there is mention of that, there is mention of how to make the galleries also. The present day, the concept of gallery, and the present day concept of museums, which you see also. So there are reflections there. It talks about that. It talks about the communication also, and also here also there is communication. The focus emphasis on the communication. Whatever was depicted, it was depicted on to communicate with the devotees, to communicate to the visitor. So this process also should continue. In fact, this study of this art and architecture related. And Kashmir, why we talk about Kashmir? Because Kashmir we have seen the the as I mentioned you in the map as such, that the big area, in fact, is under Park occupied Kashmir. The old artifacts, the old architectural edifices which we see which are with us, but there are many more which are lying in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. We have one of the elegant, temple ruins of Sharda temple. This whole Kashmir was also called Sharda Desh. So Kashmir was called Sharda Desh, Kashmir was called Sati Desh, and the Sharda temple also is in Pakistan, but Kashmir in Muzaffarabad district. Now it is part of the so-called, it is Azad Kashmir, they call it. It is occupied territory by Pakistan. So when we talk of these ruins, we need to study them in not in isolation, but with the other temples, not only in the valley, uh, but in the valley, but in Jammu also we see a lot of the affiliations with the Jammu architecture also. And there are a number of places we see certain elements from there. They are reflected in ancient temples also over here. And also it has traversed across the Himalayas. We see in Himachal and Uttarakhand, we see its reflection. This is one of the views of this Avanti Swamin temple. And very imposing views. They're spread all across. These a lot of artifacts. They have been excavated from this site, kept in SPS museum. And apart from this general study which has been undertaken, also a study of each and every sculpted stone, it also need to be undertaken as such. Now it has weathered to a great extent. This when it was exposed to sun and rain and all that, the weathering, some weathering was enhanced manifolds as such, because all these cells, they were all covered by roof. It was all stone roof. It was this gateway was also covered with stone roof, double pyramid, imposing stone roof, and also the central shrine, central Garbhagriha and Mandapa also. And the four subsidiary shrines, they were also having roof on all the shrines. Right? And as you know that there is snowfall during winters, and it is very important to have a roof on their shrines. Otherwise, what will happen if there is presently there is no roof as such, and I believe in whatever measures they are going to take, they further will deteriorate the monument. Then because they are getting exposed to snow and to other weatherings conditions as such, snow. And when the snow melts, it percolates deep in the crevices and further it develops cracks when it freezes again. So this process, and I believe the disfiguration of these sculpted panels, we see more over here in this temple. It was profusely decorated and profusely sculpted, this temple. And the authorities should think about it, its long-term preservation. Otherwise, whatever is left, as I told you, we have this is the only temple where we have the portraits of the king Avanti Varman. We don't have portrait of any of the kings who ruled Kashmir. This is the only portrait available over here. And apart from that, we have beautiful friezes of Kamadeva and Vidyarati and Preeti. We have beautiful friezes, and we have the sculpted panels depicting Ganga, Jamuna, and there are other panels also depicting Kamadeva and other gods and goddesses. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my, study regarding this place. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr. Samantaji. If you have any query, you are most welcome. Anything you would like to know about this place, it will be my pleasure to share.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was really an amazing and very thoughtful presentation. Very, very beautifully crafted presentation. I request if anybody online will like to have a question from any of our participants or speakers, he or she may go for it. If there are any queries or any questions with any of the anybody is having a question.
No question, sir, but when wonderful presentation, get lots of things. Eagerly, we are waiting to see you, Kashmir. It's a nice
Yes,
presentation, sir.
most welcome. Thank you, sister. Thanks a lot. Let me tell you that we talked about three temples today. One was Meenakshi temple, then was the great Rajarashwara built temple, Rajaraja Chola, the great the Brideshwara temple, then we have Rameshwaran temple. And let me share with you the IGNC, our center, Indira Gandhi Center for Arts. It did extensive study of this Brideshwara temple. Stone by stone was, it was measured, it was documented. And when we talk about the karnas and various dance forms, so if you happen to go through our website also, and we have got a lot of available documentation of this temple, there are all these karnas, 81 dance forms, they are depicted there. So they correlate with the Bharatnatyam forms as such, in fact. So they were correlated with the Bharatnatyam. So there's extensive multimedia documentation available on Brideshwara, and there are a lot of inscriptions also. They have also been decoded, and very extensive work was done under the able, the guidance of great teacher, Professor Naga Swamiji. This Padma Vibhushan Naga Swamiji, he has contributed a lot with us. In fact, he worked in association with Indira Gandhi Center for Arts. The extensive documentation of this place is there. So, and apart from that, when you talk of Meenakshi temple and Rameshwaran temple, IGNC has got the visual collection of all the sculpted stones, the reliefs, the carvings as such. And important thing, when you mentioned about the Brideshwara, these paintings, I've been lucky to see those paintings. It started from the Rajaraja Chola era, and then even during the Marathas period, it was part of the Maratha Empire at once upon a time. So we have certain painting depicted in the corridors of this temple. So this is a huge temple, very mighty temple, elegant temple, and an engineering marvel. I believe even when you talked about that a ramp was created, it is still imaginable. One cannot imagine that a ramp. So it used to go for 6 kilometers, this ramp, to carry the stones. But tell me then, who can tell me that when you said JCB machines were not there, cranes were not there, but no, okay, they lifted the stone. So you said 81 ton stone, they lifted it and they brought it on the top of this Vimana. How come exactly it was placed at the spot? So, so these are beyond our imagination as such as certain things that how they created this very great, grand, elegant thing. And even I have seen one documentary. It was by BBC, and they did one sort of a survey, and then they tried lifting a stone using rollers, wooden logs, and elephants. But even they were not even successful to lift the stones to a certain elevation as such. And then this one, 216 feet elevation, they had to carry the big block of stones. So I think we should go back in the time machine to that era to find out how they did it. The great marvels, and
Yes,
really
yes.
done by some extraterrestrial beings. So this kind of work, and still with this technology which we have got today, it is very difficult to do it. I believe so. Thank you very
Hmm.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
It is it is true. It is true. In fact, what Dr. Bangru is saying is something which I will also reiterate, that I have also seen some documentaries and special productions of History Channel and the National Geographic Discovery and all, and they also have tried to come out with certain kind of answers for those kind of artifactual brilliances which were created, but still a very, I will say, justified explanation is still missing, and I guess so. We really do not know exactly how it was created. But anyways, since we are closing or we are close to
I think,
the
sir, sorry to interrupt you. We have Dr. Aditya ji with us, and Doctor would have like to share something on this platform.
yeah, Aditya ji has joined us right from the very
School of
beginning.
Planning and Architecture is with us.
Yeah, he
He was
is
friend too.
the
I
head of the
I
School of.
was there with this session.
Aditya ji, can you hear us? If you can, will you like to share some experiences with us? I guess so. Aditya ji cannot
Yes,
hear us,
yes,
or there is
yeah,
some technical snag. Anyways, not a problem. So,
yeah.
at the end of this webinar, I will first like to thank all the four speakers of today. That is Ms. Logomani ji, who presented on Meenakshi Temple, then Varunani ji, who presented on Brihadeshwara Temple, and Manika Nandan ji, who has presented on Rameshwaram Temple from the South India. And then we had Dr. Virendra Banglu, who presented on the Avanti Swamin Temple of Kashmir region. It All of them were indeed amazing presentations, and in fact, something which I was looking forward to, because I'm very interested in the art and architecture of our country, and I'm getting this chance thanks to Dr. Virendra Bangru. Who has been collaborating with us, and we are organizing some webinars, and we are also getting exposed to certain kind of information and knowledge which at least I was not having, and definitely many of us are not having. So, indeed, it was a pleasure hosting you all.